Hello and welcome to the F1 Rolling Start podcast. We are so excited that you're here. I'm James.
I'm Ben.
And it is the second race of the 2024 Formula One season. And we are so excited to continue watching the battle for 11th and 12th place.
Yeah, even further down sometimes. 14, 15, whatever. Crofty's got such a hard job this year.
I feel so bad for all the commentators because this year is abysmal. It is so boring.
It's tough.
Red Bull is almost double the amount of points of Ferrari behind them in the World Championship. It is Max coasting to another consecutive World Championship.
Well, he's streaming, playing video games.
At 3 a.m. in the morning before the freaking race.
Do you think he was doing that in 2021?
No. My guy wasn't sleeping in 2021.
No, he wasn't.
And it is become almost a joke so far into the season. We are talking about scraps. We are highlighting drivers with 20-second penalties that are holding up the rest of the field. We've got Williams with significant damage overtaking Alpine.
Unreal.
And then at the front of the grid, at the pointy end where we should be focused, it is Red Bull pulling ahead. It is Ferrari with random things happening again, like their driver getting appendicitis. It's Mercedes that they can't get their car together for a third year running.
Unreal.
And it is McLaren with an underwhelming performance and Alonso pulling it all together every time.
Dude,
thank God for Fernando Alonso.
No, I mean, God. The one thing I will say is that we're getting to know the rest of the grid. That's the one positive of all this is we're getting
I've
to
never
know.
called you a plucky optimist, but here we are.
I have to
Ben
be.
K, the 2024 Formula season has made Ben K a plucky optimist.
I have to. I like to think of myself as a realistic optimist. As a kind of a. No, seriously.
Realistic optimist.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, it's true. But no, we're getting to know the rest of the grid. We're getting to know how bad Alpine has become.
Yes.
They haven't stopped falling since they let Otmar go. We're getting to know Haas as a new kind of zen-y, peaceful, like
A-OK has pulled the team together.
That's working together.
He's the Zen master. He's the guy who led the Lakers. What was the name of that coach of the Lakers during that whole time? But he was called the Zen master.
Oh, well, he was the Bulls coach before.
Yes.
Oh, God. He's like the best coach in NBA history.
Yes, right. Obviously, this is why we're Formula One fans.
Absolutely.
But he is the Zen guy. He's pulled together Haas. They got their points. But
yeah, we're getting to know the rest of the grid because the pointy end, there's literally nothing. So I will say, Crofty, you're doing a phenomenal job keeping us mostly motivated and interested in Haas racing for 11th and 12th. But I don't know, dude. It's been bonkers.
It's been bonkers.
Crazy season so far.
There's
predictable
things that we would expect. Like we expected Kick to be
Kick to have another terrible pit stop where they can't get their tire off.
Right. We expected Mercedes and Ferrari to be the closest to Red Bull. Ferrari is, Mercedes is not.
No, Mercedes is not. We were hopeful.
But there's also some things this season that were unexpected, both in the good and the bad. McLaren, what is going on with McLaren? Did you think they'd be where they are now?
No, I don't think they did. I don't think anyone did. Here's the problem. You know, we talked a couple weeks ago about how like testing is kind of a lie, qualifying is a lie. Right. It doesn't translate to.
It's all a joke.
To the pace on track,
unless you're Red Bull.
I feel like the seasons, unless you're Red Bull, are also just kind of a lie. Like McLaren was like, we're going to build on this incredible success, and we're going to be starting from a better place than we did last year. And it's like, sure, you're in third place with 2 races to go, but you're not, fighting for the actual front. And so I think they thought, and everyone else thought they were going to be racing Max, and they're not racing Max. No one's racing Max.
No one's racing Max. No one's racing Red Bull. And we thought that McLaren, based off of their development last year and how strong they finished the season, that they were going to be pulling it out.
We're like, these guys are development wizards. They're going to get it right.
Their driver lineup is the closest on the grid from a point scoring precision.
Of course.
Last year.
Yeah.
Oscar he's P5 in the championship. The guy has come out second year in F1. He's a freaking legend.
Unreal, dude.
He's definitely got that spark that future world championships have, but the car is just not there.
Yeah.
I'm sure the team is great, but the car is just not there.
Yeah, he literally scored P4 and we didn't even know about it until like the race was over. We're like, oh, Oscar was in P4, I guess, because we were so focused on Haas in the back.
He's beating his teammate, Lando Norris.
Yes.
It's only 2 races in, so it's hard to say that this is the trend. But at the same time, good on you, Oscar. That is fire.
That's phenomenal. He's a couple places above his teammate.
Yes. We're also 2 races in, and Carlos Sainz, who's only been in a race, is beating multiple drivers. So it's
Hamilton,
like, it's hard to
Norris,
really
Alonso.
extrapolate out what we're looking at this season.
I mean, he's beating Ocon. I wouldn't have thought that he'd be ahead at this point. Ocon. McLaren. They're not. I don't think where they thought they'd be. I don't really see the whatever it takes.
That was their
version
here,
of
right?
them.
Whatever it takes.
We're going to race Red Bull. No, you're not. Just be honest with yourself. So I think the one thing that's interesting is that they are a Mercedes customer. Obviously, they have a Mercedes engine,
they re-signed for 2030.
They passed Mercedes now, and again, we're only 2 races in. So hard to. This is the difficult thing right now. I feel like it's so hard to figure out what's real.
Yeah,
like where are our like bearings? We're too early. So, but there's some things that we're so dead set on. We're like, Max has got it, Red Bull's got it, the season's over. But then all these other teams, it's so hard to actually know like what's firm.
I'd say it's, to me, it's clear that Red Bull is number 1. Ferrari is number 2.
Yeah.
And I would say it's a bit of a toss-up between Mercedes and McLaren right now. I think they're
2 points.
If Hammy was performing the way George was, then we would be in a place.
Yeah, Russ has beaten your boy Hammy
each time.
Both times.
By
several places.
He's qualified better and he's finished better both times.
Yep.
And so I think we're looking at 2 teams that have newer cars and they're trying to figure out the concept.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at Fred Vassar's 2nd year in the team, and it's looking great for Freddie B.
It's his first year where like this is his.
Yes, exactly.
He came in, he had no pressure.
Yes.
Well, as little pressure as you could have.
Last year
F1.
it was a transition. Touch your neighbor and say transition. It was a transition year.
It was.
Freddie B.
He came in and it was, you couldn't blame him for anything because it wasn't his. He was just getting thrown into his, all of the other teams, drivers and car and all that kind of stuff. But this year it is him. So I'm interested to see what Ferrari actually looks like this year. But before we dive into the whole Ferrari thing, I want to go a little bit further back.
Let's go all the way back then. Let's go all the way back to the bottom of the bottom.
Let's go to
Let's
place.
dredge through the
We're
lower
gonna
part
dredge,
of Formula One.
There's a team I mentioned earlier that started falling and hasn't stopped falling. They were 4th 2 seasons ago.
Correct.
4th.
The start of the new regulations, they came out swinging.
Phenomenal. They were really an incredible contender, and they are nowhere near that this year. It is Alpine.
Yes.
The woes have just kept continuing, and I was stunned. We were talking when they released their livery about how mediocre it was and how vanilla and how just kind of that.
Yes. Well, they were the car with notoriously the most amount of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Which we then found out was because their engine is like 20 kilos heavier than everybody else's.
So they're like, how do we scrape off 20
And they're a manufacturer, so it's not like they can go, let's flick it for a Mercedes engine.
Here's my thing. When you're a manufacturer, you have no excuse. You're making the engine. Just get it right.
100%. You have the benefit of a Mercedes and a Ferrari where you get to literally go, no, this is the way we want the car to be aerodynamically, because that's what's king.
Yeah.
These times in Formula One. But you drop the ball. There's no excuse for them as a manufacturer to be where they are on the grid.
No.
Not a single excuse.
I mean, when they were supplying Red Bull, their engine was notorious during that season, which is ultimately why Red Bull tanked them and said, we're going to Honda.
Danny Rick, when he first came in, he had a great great season at Renault if it wasn't for the fact the engine exploded. Their 2022 and 2023 season, as good as they were when they had Fernando, reliability issues.
Yep. There was always reliability issues. So, I mean, again, qualifying, the teammates qualify 17th and 18th, which was actually a step up from where they qualified in Bahrain, but they're still at the bottom of the barrel. Gasly, as he's doing the formation lap, literally is like, my gearbox is gone. I'm going to be done. Yeah. So they call him in the first lap. And then Ocon literally gets beat by Albon in a damaged Williams. Front wings damaged. The Williams, which is also struggling and having its own issues, still beats him out. And so, I mean, I think my question to you is, at this point, can this season, and I hate even saying this, we're 2 races in, but can it be redeemed for Alpine? No. Or is it just done?
No, it's done. Alpine is in a terrible place.
Yeah, it's rough.
They've run out of excuses.
Yeah, there's none.
And they've done what? They've tried to pull the wool over the world's eyes. Yeah, they've gone very French about this. Nothing is wrong. Everything is fine. We'll give you 2 kilos.
It's like your car's on fire. Your gearboxes are failing. You're DNFing.
Yeah. We're not winning. We're not P4 anymore. Okay, let's fire our team principal. I know he got us to P4, but our drivers crashed into each other. It's his fault. Let's fire him. Okay, great. We need to change the narrative from it's all falling apart. Oh, let's get a bunch of investors. Okay, great. We got a bunch of investors. Oh, now that hype has worn off.
Yeah,
Let's talk about how we're talking about next year and how we know we've dropped the ball. And let's set some like big expectation. Oh, great. Let's come into this season with like the preseason testing and let's paint a narrative that we're holding back. Oh, we suck. Like they're qualifying.
Yeah.
2-3 steps ahead of Logan, which by the way is always P20. And so,
which is stunning.
Which is actually,
which is stunning.
I think he got whatever.
Yeah, he did.
Which, by the way,
that says something.
Really does it because anyway.
He was P15.
Yes, but he couldn't overtake a car that his teammate with a broken front wing did.
Yeah.
So we don't talk. James made a mistake. We forgive you, James, but correct it.
There's other drivers out there. I don't know. One last name is Bearman.
Yeah, Bearman. Get the Bearman in.
We'll freaking get to him. But yeah.
But Logan. Alpine. Okay, so I'll say this. Here's what I feel about Alpine. You and I both go to church.
We do go to church.
And there was the thing a few years ago where churches would think,
oh, I've been part of some of these.
Oh, yeah. The reason why people aren't coming or staying is because they didn't have a big enough LED screen or moving lights or enough smoke in the room.
Yeah.
And so they would try to hype the experience. And that's what Alpine is doing. And it has nothing to do with the hype or the thing. It's not that, changing your team principle is a bad thing. If it needs to be done, it needs to be done. It's not
but
that
in the middle of a race weekend,
drivers needs to be. It's just not the problem.
No, it's not the
problem. The problem is the engine. The problem is the car design.
Yes.
And that's not being fixed. You have now gone from we fired to 2 key people have left on their own volition and gone to other teams.
One of them went to Aston.
And now you come out and you say, well, this is a good thing because now we're going to finally be able to go to the 3-pronged design approach that we wanted to go to.
We always envisioned.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You can't get your feet together. Yeah. It is a falling rock in water. You said this. It hasn't even hit rock bottom.
No, the other shoe hasn't landed yet.
No.
Which is
the first shoe hasn't finished dropping.
This is the crazy thing about it is Alpine hasn't seen how bad it's going to get. It's going to get worse, and it's not just going to be a this year bad. It's going to be a next year bad too, because of how quick the development race is in F1. This is the reality where if you have a bad season it's going to then just drop into the next year's.
It's 1 to 2 season. Drag.
I mean,
easily. Look at Mercedes. Look at Mercedes, and you're talking about a team that had it together.
Yeah.
Alpine hasn't had it together. Renault didn't have it together before that.
No.
We're talking about top of the midfield at best.
And now
they're dropping. They're looking like Williams did in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Russell was driving for them, and he's coming on the radio going, "We should just retire the car. I don't even want to be out here anymore."
Dude, it's a pretty sobering reality, and there's going to be a postmortem on this at some point, and I would love to understand, like, really from like a leadership perspective, like what was the failure? Like where was it? And was it that like it's just the engine, it's slower, it's heavier, fix that. If we can fix that, we'll be good. But like we tried to fix everything else around that because for some reason we can't fix that one thing.
To me, it just feels like they're trying to really control the narrative, and I think the world's over it.
Yeah, no, it's
Ryan Reynolds is sitting in his multi-million-dollar mansion.
His investment's probably a little bit less valuable than.
Less valuable now. He's going, man, I really should have stuck with soccer.
I should have. But yeah, Alpine, the woes continue, and the fall, they haven't stopped falling. So we're here to see how far they keep going.
Yes, and this is a good time to stop and say that I'm super thankful for the F1 Fantasy app and that they have the wild card chip that you can apply, which allowed me to change out my team with no negative points.
Wait, did you have Alpine?
I had Alpine.
Oh my!
And I changed it.
God,
look. Don't judge me.
I mean, I had RB, which is no better at this point.
Literally, well, I changed mine to RB, so I'm kind of in the same place as you. Okay, we want to shout out our league right now. We have the F1 Rolling Start League. If you want to change it, it is in. If you want to change it, if you want to join it, you can't change it. But if you want to join it, you can go over to the show notes as you're listening, and you can join that as well. I want to shout out our number 2 spot because our number 2 spot is one of our listeners called BG, and he gave us shirts this week.
Oh, yeah.
From Heritage Racing, we have Alonso.
I got Alonso on the back.
I got 2016 Danny Rick because I'm Australian.
Great.
Danny
Great
Rick
2016.
the honey, and it says Honey Badger on it.
Oh, my God.
I can't do that. So you can join our league. We'd love for you to join it. The current winner right now in our league is 117 Racing. Robert and Evelyn Valdez are honestly crushing it. 30 points ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, they're getting something right.
Followed by BG. He's on their heels at 379. But you can join it. You can head up to the show notes. And while you're there, go ahead and like and subscribe. We would love for you to share this with whoever you are talking to Formula One about.
Absolutely.
But let's shift to Haas for a second.
Let's go to Haas. Some quick context. So before the season started,
you are the king of context.
It's important.
You're the king of context and data.
Yeah. Well, what is a story without both of those?
Ben makes us better, friends.
I try. So Magnussen and Hulk had been competitors before, and not great competitors at that. And there's been all these moments where they've been fierce competitors. They've been in kind of really violent with each other.
There was the one very graphic ask of Magnussen when he told Hulkenberg to use a certain part of his body on another certain part of his body because he was not interested in what he had to say.
When we heard these guys are going to be teammates, when we heard that Haas was bringing both of them out, we're like, oh my God, what's this going to be? And they got on. But this week was incredible. So first and foremost,
amazing.
Haas obviously has 0 points. And this is the reality of F1 now. Not only are we not seeing fighting at the front, there's like the haves and the haves not. So there's 5 teams that are able to score points. There's only 10 spots that get points.
Right.
So the other 5 teams are only going to score if one of those top 5 teams racers, one of them, crashes out. So this race, Stroll crashes out, which frees up a point scoring position. And so we have literally 5 teams fighting for a single point because that's the most they're going to get. Haas, brilliantly. Literally brilliant. Magnussen gets 2 10-second penalties.
It's so good. 20 seconds.
20 seconds. One's for causing a collision with Albon. The second is for overtaking off the track. He did. He did.
Albon literally was squeezed between his tires and the wall. It was 100%
It's now this year it went from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. So it doubled, which is good. And the drivers were asking for that. So Magnussen, he ain't got anything to lose. No. He's not going to score. So what he does is he becomes the conductor of a freaking DRS train.
Yeah, it's Thomas the Tank Engine.
Literally where he's fast enough where no one can pass him. And he just puts on this defensive clinic where like he refuses to let anyone get past him.
What he did was actually incredible.
Yeah.
So there's certain parts of the Jeddah track where it's impossible to pass somebody.
Yeah, it can happen.
And so he drove so slow in there, like 2 seconds slower than the people ahead.
Yep.
Because he knew that no one could pass him.
But he was also charging his battery.
Exactly. And then on the straights, he was just ripping.
Unleashed the battery.
Absolutely ripping.
Yep.
And so there's no way for them to get around him.
No. So, I mean, but
he screwed Ocon. Royally screwed Ocon. Because Ocon's the only person in that DRS train that actually could have done something.
Yeah. But what he did, and this was so brilliant because his teammate, Hulk, was 2 positions ahead in 10th place. But he needed a big enough gap to where he could pit and then come out ahead of this insane DRS train because they were trying to go for 10th place for that final point scoring position. And so literally Mag just backs everyone up over multiple laps. They finally pit Hulk. Hulk comes out like a second or 2 ahead.
Incredible.
Of Magnussen in 11th place. But Stake, who hadn't pitted yet, was in 10th place and they had to pit. And so Hulk bumped to 10th place. It was his first points finish in over 20 races. But this was incredible because you just see a team working together. You see 2 guys who before had just couldn't care for each other.
Right.
Actually working together. And you see Haas up again. I hate saying that we're only 2 races in. But guess what? We're 2 races in. And guess what? They're up into freaking 6th place.
It's incredible.
They are, to this point, faster than Alpine. They are faster than Williams. They are faster than RB. They are faster than State. None of whom we thought they'd be faster than.
Yes.
At all. So I guess the question for you, James, is
Ask me, Ben.
Are we seeing the emergence of a midfield Haas?
Well, here's the thing that's interesting is I'm curious if this is just AO's zenness, like we referenced before. I'm wondering if Haas just needed a little less erratic of a leader and more of someone who could just bring some stability and say, let's just figure out where we are. Yeah. Let's take a step on top of that. Instead of someone who, at the end of every race, was just throwing their hands up in the air. And like I love Gunther. We all love Gunther.
So much love.
Because he gives off gunslinger vibes. Yeah. He just rolling around the paddock with 2 6-shooters on the side of his hips, just pew pew, just taking people out. Like
I think he
blowing up.
He was bigger than the team.
Yeah, 100%. And so I'm wondering if they just needed a little bit of stability, a little less intensity, and he might just be an incredible leader
and someone who understands like the fundamentals and the basics and like the engineering and
that's the era of Formula One we're in.
That is like you need a leader who now Toto is the exception, but
Toto and Christian are both the exception, and Zach.
Yeah, but with Toto,
and Bruno. There's a lot of exceptions, but the new generation.
But what I'm going to with Toto is all about creating an environment where the team can thrive. That's great. However, the last 3 years it's not been working because they've not been thriving.
Correct.
So I'm really interested with this new generation of leadership, folks who understand the engineering side of it, what that ultimately looks like. If they can have a car that's competitive enough to fight the teams that don't have a leader who understands that dynamic. And so, I think with Haas, again, it may just be that they needed someone who could lead the team in a different way, in a less, I hate to say volatile, but it was pretty volatile.
100%. I can't remember if this year's Haas is a variation of last year's car.
Well, they brought so many upgrades last year to Austin that were for this year.
Right.
So I don't know that they've changed it much.
And I don't know if they know, but based off of them and how they operate. But I'm wondering if we can see some progression from them this year. I mean, currently, we have RB with 0 points. We have Williams with 0 points. And we have Alpine with 0 points.
And for context, because context is king,
Haas
Haas last year was 10th.
Yes. And now they're
dead
what,
last.
7th?
They're 6th.
They're 6th. So,
I mean,
they have 1 point. But
again, we said, guess what? All the points are going to Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston.
And it's hard to get them.
The likes of Haas, Alpine, Williams, RB, and Stake aren't getting those points. No. So literally, unless someone crashes out, which you can kind of land Stroll for that every once in a while, it frees up 10th place. So I honestly think this year we're going to see those 5 teams at the bottom separated by literally a point or two because they're so hard to come by this year.
Okay, so you said something interesting there. The top teams. Yes. We had, obviously coming into this weekend, the big news was Carlos Sainz, our wonder boy from week 1.
Oh, yeah.
I became a Carlos Sainz fan this season.
Yeah, I did too.
I still can't stand the way his voice sounds. But other than that, I am a mad Carlos Sainz fan right now.
He's the underdog right now.
He's the underdog.
He's gotten dropped again.
We're Americans. We love an underdog.
We love it, even if they're not from here.
My guy gets even more respect from me this weekend. He did not race because he had appendicitis. He thought it was a stomach bug for FP1 and 2. Do you know what appendicitis is?
Imagine if that
it's when your appendix ruptures and you can die.
My mother-in-law just had it.
One
of my friends just had it.
It's not something small.
No,
it's easily fixed, but it is surgery.
It's like a grenade that someone pulled the pin out of.
Exactly.
Put it into your body and it's going to go off at some point.
It's an M80 in your intestines. That's what appendicitis is.
It's like, why do we have these?
We don't know. We'll ask God about it when we get there. But here's the thing. He was a day after surgery.
I saw him.
Trackside.
God.
What a legend.
Phenomenal.
Ollie Berman, the British driver, youngest driver ever for Ferrari. The Bear Man.
The Bear Man.
Comes in from so he qualifies P1 for the FP2.
Yep.
Gets the call and says, hey, psych, you're not going to get any points in F2 because your day is now.
That's unreal.
In not free practice 1, not free practice 2, because Carlos handled those while his appendix was rupturing.
Yeah.
Free practice 3.
Unreal.
The most unnecessary free practice in Jeddah because it is not at all what qualifying or the track is like. Hops into an F1 car and sends it.
Unreal.
Does an incredible job. Gets in the race. Qualifies pretty decently.
Qualified 11th. Right behind Hamilton. Almost denied Hamilton Q3.
0.0036 is the difference between him and the 7-time world champion in a trash heap, but in
the guy who's coming to Ferrari next year.
Literally what I thought. Okay, so he does a phenomenal job, and he gets driver of the day, which is great, and honestly deserved.
Yeah.
My question is this.
Yes.
He is now, if I'm not mistaken,
you're not
10th.
Yeah, you're not
in
mistaken.
the driver standings.
You're not mistaken. He is 10th.
This kid is 18 years old.
He's 2 points behind Lewis Hamilton.
We have Ollie Bearman as the F2 current driver and the reserve for Ferrari.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We have Doohan as the Alpine reserve driver, F2 driver. Mm-hmm. We have Drugovich for Aston Martin. We have
Logan Sargent, the F2 driver.
Okay, stop. Okay, we have a field of Logan Sargent is the antithesis of what I'm about to say, you jerk. And we have a field of drivers that we're always saying we don't know if we want to take a risk on someone. Ollie comes out and puts a Formula One driver in of a lifetime. Gets the respect of the entire grid.
In a moment.
This is great, right? Yeah. I think he silences the story. My thought is this. Why the hell does Lance Stroll still have a damn seat in Formula One?
That's a
the guy has
question.
1 point to his name. He has DNF. We're looking at the same reprieve. Alonso has 12 points. Stroll has 1 because he got P10 in Bahrain and he didn't finish in Saudi Arabia. At what point does Aston Martin go, if we want to win a world championship, Lance, your day is done. You've been in F1 for almost a decade and you haven't got anything. Lance is no slum. You don't win races. You don't get podiums in Formula One without being a good driver. I'm just saying, if Ollie can come out and put it where he put it with 1 race after FP3 as his only experience, what racing and generation are we denying because people won't just go, you know what, I've had my chance and I'm done?
Well, it comes back to what we've always talked about, which is why we like F1, is that it is about merit. It is about the best rising to the top. Now, that's the unspoken rule, and it's a spoken rule of F1. But there are certain folks who just don't abide by it. And they're like, it doesn't matter about merit, doesn't matter about who's the best. We're, for one reason or another, Stroll, Sarge, etc., we're just going to stick with these guys. And you've got the next generation of racers who are better.
Who deserve a seat.
There's only 20 seats. And so this is the thing about F1 is like either you're going to stay a meritocracy where it's about the best having the spot, or you're not.
Right.
So either like that's the program and that's the sport and that's why we love it. But if we start getting to the point where that's not what it is, well, then now we're talking about a different sport. But that's not what it's supposed to be.
I would even argue like it's different between Sargent and Stroll because Sargent.
Well, yeah, of course it is.
But the Stroll thing that bugs me is that this isn't like somebody else. Even the Fernando Alonso's, the Sebastian Vettel's, Kimi Räikkönen, these people who had world championships, they didn't stick in here as long as he has with more results and more of a name to them. Sebastian got flicked from Ferrari, went to Aston, and then left the sport.
Yeah.
Who has been just kind of bumming around from team to team. It's like, dude, we're talking about daddy's son who is getting to deny somebody what they're working for their entire life just because his daddy can pay for him to be in the team.
I mean, it's the age-old, frustration. It's the perennial issue. And because
do you struggle with it? Because I would kind of be the same. I'd be in the
same
position.
Of course.
If my son wants to do it, and I can afford to do it, why wouldn't I?
Well, yeah. I mean, they want to win a championship together. I mean, if we were in that position as a father, we both have kids.
Yeah. We're both billionaires.
No, we're not. No, but I mean, I can understand that familial desire to like, I'm going to do this with my boy, or I'm going to do this with my dad. And like, it's us against the world and we're going to like make this happen. And what a special thing if you were able to do that.
Totally. But you also reach a point as a father where you go, son, it's not for you.
But then do you just exit the sport yourself? Like, if you're a dad, you say, I'm doing this for my kid.
What's saying that he can't become the team principal? Like, if you want to win it together, fine. Maybe it won't be as a driver.
With Stroll?
Stroll could be a team principal. I'd rather be a team principal and put a flipping driver in there that deserves it. I bet you anything if they put Felipe in there for the rest of the season, he would get more points than Stroll.
Probably.
Stroll's had his time.
Yeah.
Stroll's generation.
Almost a decade.
Yes.
Better part of a decade. Yeah, it's a difficult thing because, again, we're seeing the canyon between him and his teammate widen. And again, for the first year, we're always talking about, it's Alonso. You can't really hold them up to each other. But it's like, but no, you can.
Yes, he has 120% more points than Fernando. Fernando has 120% more points than him.
It's just at this point, you've been in it long enough. And if the frickin' Bearman's coming in and slaying on his first race with one practice and one qualifying, the bar is pretty high now.
100%.
So So yeah, I think for Aston, it's frustrating, it's challenging. I don't like that we keep perpetuating this because it just kind of spits in the face of what F1's all about, and there really isn't an end in sight.
I 100% agree.
So, I mean, but really quick though, for Ollie, does he get a spot next year? Does someone on the grid?
I think he will.
But whose spot does he take?
Do you want to know my honest opinion?
Sure, I've always.
I think Nico's going to go to a different team.
Nico's been crushing.
Exactly.
Nico's been crushing.
Nico's out-qualified all last season.
Yeah.
Qualified all this season.
And he's got not a good car. You put him in a good car, he's exactly. Scoring points.
Nico is legitimately super sub. The guy is nuts.
Yeah.
And I think he'll go to a better team. I don't know where. I haven't decided that. Maybe Aston. I'm not entirely sure.
I mean,
if Fernando gets flicked, I think that might take Nico. I'm not sure. Because they had him before. They loved Nico.
Yeah, he's great.
The only reason he left is because he was reserve driver there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I think he'll go, and I think he'll join Magnussen, and they'll keep Magnussen because of consistency.
Yeah.
So I think it's a safe bet. But Magnussen needs to step it up this year.
He does. Nico's been pushing him.
Yeah.
And I don't outperforming.
I don't think Ollie, because Ollie is in the Ferrari Academy, obviously. And the only team I feel could snake Ollie would be Red Bull. Mercedes has their guy.
Yeah.
Their young driver is settled.
Yeah. They've got him.
So I don't think
they're not looking for another young driver.
No. And so
Red Bull is unsettled.
Red Bull is unsettled.
They are.
And they are looking for the next Max.
Yes, they are.
Ollie came out this weekend. He laid it down. He didn't. When a driver goes out as a reserve driver, the team tells him this: just bring the car home.
Yeah, please don't cost us millions of dollars in damage.
We have to run you.
Yeah,
you're not our driver.
Yeah,
we don't have a contract with you, other than the fact that we didn't expect you to do this. We kind of did this because we hoped this wouldn't happen, and we need you to just bring the car back.
Yep.
Ollie went out there and went.
He was racing on lap 1.
Flick that. I'm sending it.
He was trying to overtake people during their first lap.
Yes,
I was like, you don't have to DRS yet.
Send this. The guy was legit. Okay.
Unreal.
So he got the attention of the field. If he went out there and played it safe.
Demanded the attention.
Exactly. If
Unreal.
he went out there and played it safe, he would do it. If FC comes up, I guarantee you he'll be in one next year.
Yeah.
No matter how it goes in F2, because he just lost a point-winning race because he had to compete in Formula 1.
Yeah.
Which is the dream of everyone who's in F2 anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. No, I think that Haas makes sense. He's done testing for them.
They're also a Ferrari customer.
Yeah.
And he's tested for them before in Mexico, which he also did amazing in, by the way.
Yeah. I think Haas makes sense. I think at this point, the infatuation at Williams with their second driver is going to end this year. 100%. There's too many good drivers in
especially
the wings.
Haas continues on the route it goes.
Yeah, they need to get away from Sarge, and they need to bring in one of these up and coming talents. And so I think he's going to find a spot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's no way they can do Williams can do what they did last year, which is Albon carried Williams.
No, they need both of their drivers. Williams.
Albon single-handedly solidified their place in the championship last year.
Absolutely did.
Single-handedly, because Sargent ended with 1 point by default.
It was absolutely the case. Yep.
It was depressing.
Yep. He single-handedly locked 7th place for them.
Out of 20 drivers, Sargent finished 21st. So it's nuts that Sargent's still in that seat, and he has not proved anything. Okay, I want to switch gears for a second because you wrote something in here that really pissed me off. In our show notes, I'm pointing to my computer right now.
I think I know what it is.
Mercedes ended 21 seconds behind the best Ferrari in 40 seconds.
It's just
Red Bull.
The data. I'm not making anything up. It's all about data and context. What more do you want from me?
Read your damn quote.
Quote, this is from Hammy, 7-time world champion. The 8th was stolen from him. He's still fighting to get that back. He needs to move past that. Let's just lay that down, Hammy. That happened. We all know it happened. Stop letting it define you. You'll get it.
Are you acknowledging that it happened?
I'm acknowledging that he's saying his 8th was stolen from him. Lay it down. Stop letting it define you.
So
Go
you're
and
cool
race.
with you. Data doesn't lie, but rules are kind of subjective to when they should be enforced.
Well, we're Americans, and we're used to refs getting it wrong because they make decisions in the heat of the moment.
Nationality.
So Hamilton says, and I quote, and it's a light paraphrase, so you'll forgive me for the light paraphrase. Quote, "It's been 3 years with the same car. We haven't made big enough changes." Of course you haven't. We need to make big changes. Of course you do. The other teams around us have different concepts. And then he continued, and we've kept the same concept. End quote. So this is the challenge. And again, there were reasons for this, but Hammy finished 9th. Behrman, the guy we were just talking about,
in his first
finished 2 points ahead of him, or 2 places ahead of him. So Hammy finishes behind Behrman, behind Lando, behind Piastri, behind Russ, his teammate. He's finished twice behind his teammate. I think
2 for 2.
I mentioned this earlier when we were talking this week about car-induced apathy.
Yeah.
And obviously we know Hamilton's going to Ferrari. We know, he's leaving. He still has this season to race. And Merc is still struggling. So just like, I asked you, are we witnessing Haas emerging as a midfield team? I think my other question is, are we actually witnessing a deconstruction of a dynasty? Like, is it official now? We're in year 3 with Merc. Like, what is going on?
I hear you, and thank you for your opinion about my team.
It's just data and facts, so it's not my opinion.
Okay, so let's fact this out then.
We'll fact it out.
Because the fact of the matter is that no team in the history of F1 has adjusted to the regulations like Red Bull has. So it is accentuating everyone else's lead time.
Sure.
Adrian Newey is a god.
Straight from...
He is a Greek god of old. We witness Ares
or
stand
Poseidon
before us.
He's untouchable.
You know what I mean?
Everyone says Max is untouchable. No, it's Adrian Newey.
When has ever a radical concept just out the gate performed like this? Even their original contest, their original car didn't perform like this in 2022. They floundered for the first couple races at least before it took off. We're looking at dominance that isn't no. Braun came out and they had a double diffuser.
Yeah,
and they shook up the whole field. It's not. We're talking once a decade type car situation right now.
Yeah,
and we look at these other teams and we're 2 races in and we're going, they don't know what they're doing. In days of old, 2 races in, no one knew what they were doing. And a lot of the first 1 to 5 races were won by luck.
Yeah.
And chance. And one car got it right because they tweaked one part of the setup. And then the next race, they had no idea what they had done the previous race. And the track was totally
Those days
different.
are over.
Those days are over. Red Bull
over.
has it dialed in. So it just makes the rest of the field look like a bunch of F2 and F3 drivers. And now, Mercedes probably has an okay concept, be it 2 years old. And they're trying to get the best out of it. And they can't. And the pressure is on because it's Mercedes. And so the question of, are we watching a dynasty fall? I don't know if we're watching them fall, but we're definitely watching them tread water. It's the Titanic scene where the band is playing.
They're playing.
They're forcing them to play.
That's like Alpine a little bit too.
Sinks. It's the part
There's nothing to do here. We're fine.
Rose is on the door floating.
It was a difficult part.
And Jack is there. And you're just saying, move over, Rose.
Yeah, the door can hold
Jack
you both.
Can fit. But Hamilton's like, no, I'm going to die. And drops. And like, you know what I mean?
No,
I think it's a little bit of car-induced apathy. I think it's like, I'm going to Ferrari next year. I'm trying to end strong, but the team is not with him. I think he's frustrated. It's been 2 years of him warning them that this is the way it was going to go. They didn't listen to him. And so I think
that
part
of
it, whether he realizes it or not, could be a like, and I told you so type mentality.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts about Mercedes when you think about them? being the Red Bull sycophant you are, how do you feel about Mercedes?
I appreciate dominance and talent, which Mercedes has had for so long. It is difficult to see a team that had such a reputation, and you look during the race at their team, and they're just absolutely. It's just like they're numb, or they can't believe this is actually happening still.
Right.
And but this isn't like 2022 when things went sideways. We're several years into the bad dream, the nightmare that they never thought would ever actually happen. And so it's a really difficult thing, because you're like, guys, why are we still here?
Right.
Like, how is this still possible? Like, Adrian, I know he's a guy, but he can't be the only one.
No.
Like, you've got a guy who's got multiple championships as your lead designer. Like, what is going on? And so I think for me, we talk about leadership. Like, obviously, I couldn't imagine a universe in which Toto isn't leading Mercedes, but I think again, from being from Cleveland, I'm just going to pull this back into it. At some point, you're like, we just need to switch the lead coach. He's not doing the job. It's not happening under this guy.
That's harsh.
It's difficult. It's difficult because Mercedes, Toto owns. He's like one of the owners.
It's not that. It's difficult because he went from P1 to P3 and then P2 and then this year.
But for Mercedes, though, Mercedes won't even take a picture unless they've gotten P1. Like,
that's not true.
Their standard is so high because of course their standard dominance.
So is Ferrari's. But
here's the thing: I'm just saying, at some point for Mercedes, are they content to be fighting for the midfield?
No, but you know what I respect about them?
What, their humility and their honesty?
They're the opposite of Alpine. Alpine is trying to blow
smoke. They are. At least Toto's like, we're doing terrible. I know exactly what's going on, and this is, awful.
Why didn't you tell me you had such a good Toto impersonation? Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So good.
That's the thing that I love about them, is that they're like, you know what?
He takes it on the chin.
We're not good enough. And we need to be better. We know we can be better. And we've got to figure out how to do it. And we don't know how right now. But we're going to keep.
I'm sorry, but I agree. How many years can you say we don't know? At some point, I'm like,
Ben,
please.
You say data doesn't lie. They went from 3 and they said, we're going to get better. We're going to get better. And then they went to P2. They got better. They didn't win, but they got better. And now they're saying, we still need to get better. They changed their design. They admitted that they were wrong. And now they're trying to get better again. They're doing what
they're still in
they're
P3.
going to do.
They're not doing what they say they're going to go do. For them, better is we're back winning championship. That's what better is. Better isn't P2.
And this is where you and I differ, because I think by the end of this year, someone will catch Red Bull.
I don't think so. Here's why.
I think the drama that they're walking through right now is going to catch up with them.
Well, yeah, I have no idea what the hell is going on at Red Bull.
It's a crapshoot.
I don't sign off on any of it. Max, please keep racing. Please try to stay above all the just crumminess that's happening.
He's unaffected by it. He's twitching at 3 a.m. on it.
Well, but I'm going to come back to what you were saying at the beginning about him twitching and him streaming video games at 3 a.m. Here's why I don't think anyone's going to catch Red Bull. Is because of what you said about Max. He isn't. I'm convinced he is not racing right now. He's not racing.
No. He's running a sim.
Literally running a sim. He is practicing. No one has taken it to him and forced him to race. Once we see him race, he will go race and he will still beat them. But I do not think someone's going to catch Red Bull this year. And that pains me to say that, because I'd love to see, I don't know, us not watching people fighting for P13 and P14.
Yeah, like I care
for
what Danny Rick and friggin' Yuki Tsunoda are doing.
I'm like, we're outside the points.
Outside of the points. Why am I looking at this DRS train of a dude who has a 20-second penalty? I disagree. I think we are going to see the teams get their
So
feet
who's
together.
Who's going to catch Max? You think Sergio's going to catch Max?
Nope. I think this pains me to say.
Is it Ferrari?
I think it'll be Ferrari or McLaren.
Now, interesting. Interesting. I will say this, but I think it's track specific, which I didn't bring it up. It's my notes though. Ferrari did go from 39 seconds back, exhausting, gross, in Bahrain to 19 seconds back in Jeddah. Do you think that's track specific? I know the tracks are way different. So
That's a really good question.
But it is a big cut. It's a 20-second cut almost.
Well, and it is. And the main difference between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia.
Great pronunciation.
Thank you so much.
The Australian in you really came out.
Thank you so much. And the main difference between Bahrain and Saudi is that it's the degradation. So yes. Bahrain is a bespoke racetrack made and created for Formula One.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia is a bespoke racetrack made and created for Formula One. Other things race on it, but they made it for F1. Mm-hmm. The difference is Bahrain is 20 years old.
Yep.
And Saudi is 4 years old.
Yeah.
So Saudi's tarmac versus Bahrain's is completely different.
Yeah.
Bahrain chews tires.
Yeah.
Like my 2-year-old.
The deg is insane.
Fruit sticks. Like it is just, it devours them.
I gave him some veggie sticks the other day and he just downed.
Consumes immediately.
Yeah.
Bahrain is that. Jeddah is the way that my child eats broccoli. It is one tiny little bit at a time through tears. That's how it.
Such a great analogy.
It just kind of massages and caresses tires. Ollie did 40-something laps on a pair of hard tires.
Yeah. Same with Max. They came in at lap 7 to pit because Stroll crashed and didn't come back in the rest of the race. Because it just
you can't do that in Bahrain.
No, you can't do that in most places.
You can barely do 20 laps in Bahrain before you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So that has something. That has something to play.
That's why I didn't bring it up with Ferrari. I'm like, that
has something to play with Ferrari because Ferrari last year their big problem was
the tire deck.
Their tire deck, and so this year they've made it better. But it's hard for me to say Jeddah proves that they've made it better. Because Jeddah doesn't touch tires.
No. Yeah, I think we got to wait for more races.
So I don't know. I think it's going to be Ferrari. I think McLaren is going to.
So Ferrari is going to catch Max.
Yes.
Not Red Bull. They're going to catch Max. That's a difference. It's a difference.
I'm hopeful Ferrari can keep improving from where they are, and they started really high up in comparison to the other team. Now, the difference between Mercedes and McLaren is that I have lost faith in Mercedes and their development because of the last 2 years' performance, right? Yeah. So they have a bunch of new parts, and they keep telling everyone that they've got some things coming. And I just don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Whatever.
Right? So I'm letting my team prove me wrong. McLaren has a proven track record of their improvements, not just working, prolific.
Yeah.
And so my money's on Oscar and Lando taking it to them this year. Or
taking it to Max or to Ferrari?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. We saw it last year a little bit. There was moments. I mean, but dude, did you watch in Jeddah when Lando was leading? Now, again, he didn't come in to pit. He didn't have new tires. But on the straight, when Max finally was like, we're done here. I was like,
Max was sleeping.
I was like, what is this? It was like
Max's Red Bull is a Tesla on auto drive.
Literally,
now.
I was just like, what? There was no competition. There was no even ability to stop. Now, Hammy couldn't get past Lando to save his life. Now, Lando was swerving a little on the streets. That's a generous phrase. But Hammy still couldn't
that was
get
only
past
once.
him.
Honestly, that was only once.
It was only once. So anyway,
and he got noted for it, and he didn't do it again, and Hamilton still couldn't get past him. Here's the thing. The reality is the sport needs somebody to take it to Red Bull.
Yes.
We need to see racing again.
The FIA and F1 are like, please, dear
FIA
God,
and F1 are scratching their heads. We changed all of the regulations to make racing better and more consistent, and we've actually made it worse. 2021, 2020, and even 2019 were way better seasons.
Dude,
I
need to go back and watch every 2021 race.
Don't do it. You'll be so pissed.
I will be
It was so good. It was such a great season. And I don't. It's an unrealistic expectation to have 2021 again. That's a once in a lifetime type season. Like that is.
I wish it was
Prost versus Senna. Like it is a crazy type thing, right? We won't see those. We'll look back on that, and it will be something that we'll watch with our kids. But
yeah,
we need someone to at least like mid V6 hybrid era Mercedes, where it was different people winning.
Yeah.
Yes, Lewis had it locked up 1 or 2, 3 races before the end of the season.
Not
We're
2
looking
races
at a season.
in.
Exactly. We're looking at a season where Max could have this thing locked up halfway through. He could be the world champion again by race 14 or 15.
And again, I love Max and like
Maxi Poo is your favorite.
How effortless it is for him.
Is that what you should call him from now on? Maxi Poo?
I don't call him Maxi Poo. I'm just saying I love how effortless it is, and it's incredible to watch. I also am a massive fan of competition. Like,
yes, exactly.
Huge fan of competition. I just love competition. I love fierce competition. And so it's not Max's fault that no one's taking it to him. That's not his fault. People might get frustrated with him. Why are you frustrated with him? He's got a great car and he's a phenomenal talent. Yeah. The people we should be frustrated with are the rest of the bozos who can't figure it out. So
and that's the part that pisses me off is that these teams should be better.
Yeah. There's 9 other teams. One of you can
figure it out. It's not just Max. It's the car.
Yeah.
Because Checo was still ahead of the other drivers.
Yeah.
Significantly.
No, of course. Speaking of Red Bull.
Let's talk drama.
Speaking of the car. We're hesitant to even do this because we want F1 to be about what's on track. The racing. Now we acknowledge obviously there's stuff happening off track and there is part of that is just inherent in F1. But right now it's a bit exhausting.
Red Bull is leading the way in the constructors, the drivers world championship this year.
Yes.
Easily. They did last year as well. The problem is that at the beginning of this year there was drama with the team principal.
Yes.
There was an investigation done internally. Parent company Red Bull came to the conclusion that no one was at fault, specifically the team principal, Christian Horner.
Yes.
And they dismissed the case,
it.
Which not internally was done by a third party.
Yeah.
Now, it should have been done at that point, and we should have gone back to Formula One driving.
They were trying to wrap it up before the season started.
100%. And everyone was aligned with that.
Yes.
However, other team principals started asking for clarity around
more transparency.
What it looks like and transparency. Then Max's dad comes out, makes some statement to some newspapers while he's doing another race on his own about how it's Christian Horner's fault and how the team's being torn apart from the inside. So now the story shifts from what's going on and it's been dismissed to what's happening with inside of the team.
Yeah.
Then after it gets dismissed during free practice on Thursday, all of the messages between Horner and this girl allegedly get leaked from thing.
Yes.
Then comes out that Red Bull thinks that it's Helmut Marko that released all of these photos because he's not okay with Horner still being in this position and what he's allegedly done. This was all conjecture, but then Marko gets sat down by Red Bull.
Yeah, they were
about
threatening
what it is,
to suspend him.
And so they were going to threaten to suspend him. Then Max comes out and says, without Marko, I'm not going to be a part of Red Bull. Then Red Bull dismisses it and says, Marko, you're good. We're hanging out. And
it's
dramatic.
It's just dramatic. And in the midst of that, there's been massive speculation on the future of Max.
Yes.
Max is tied up with Red Bull for the next several years. Yes, several years. And for good reason. You've got the best car, you've got the best driver, it just makes sense. However,
he's so hot right now.
Yeah. There's been a shift in the messaging, even from Christian Horner, the team principal, with all of this drama going around. So
I didn't know this.
This is a direct quote from Horner. It's not, new here. It's been out for a few days, but I'm going to just read it in its entirety because I don't want to paraphrase. But it says, quote, "No individual is bigger than the team." I'm just going to pause there for a second. Okay.
Max sure feels that way.
Sure. Max isn't bigger than the team. Okay. I'll continue. Quote, we have a phenomenal car. We've got one seat open for next year. I've probably got 16 drivers that are desperate to be in that car for next year. Maybe. And Checo is in pole position. It's his seat to lose. Okay, that's consistent with what you've said. So I think that we have a strong relationship with Max. He's doing a wonderful job. His focus is very much on what he's doing on track, and that's where our focus is. End quote. Now, I'd like to say that's not where your focus is. That's not where the focus is right now on Red Bull. The focus is still off track, but also it's really interesting that as there's been all this talk of Max potentially going to Mercedes, him leaving Red Bull, we start hearing Christian, his tone shifting. And this is really weird because just in Bahrain, immediately after the race, he met with Max's representation, cleared the air, and apparently settled everything.
Apparently.
We were good.
But also had a shouting match with Jos Verstappen.
Yeah. But now a week later, it's, well, no individual's bigger. I'm like, sure, okay. So when LeBron
Are you seeding the ground for what is to come?
Yeah, so when LeBron left Cleveland, guess what? They went back to sucking. Or when Jordan left the Bulls, guess what? Oh, they went back to not being a contender. There are some individuals, guess what, who are bigger than the team. There's some individuals who the team is built around. There are some individuals who, when the team is weak, are the only one that carries them on their back. And there's some sportsmen who that's just who they're built to be. And you can't deny it. And if you do, you're just lying to yourself. Full stop. So Max, for better or worse, is one of those sportsmen where he literally is untouchable. His own teammate with the same car can't get close to him.
10 seconds behind him.
So you can't just trade out Max. He truly is a generational talent.
There's two drivers on the field right now that can pretty much ask whatever they want. It's a 7-time world champion and a 3-time world champion.
Alonso?
No, Alonso's 2. Is it Max 3?
Max is.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say Hamilton's already done with.
But I'm saying he
saying the ones that
he went to Ferrari and he got a ridiculous deal. It's more deals came out. I think it's like $446 million across.
Oh no, Hammy can ask whatever he wants.
Hammy can ask whatever he wants.
Max can ask
Alonso whatever the hell he wants. Toto Wolff came out and said any team on the grid would do handstands.
Of course they would
to get Max right now.
Of course
I would welcome Max in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, here's the thing: if I'm twitching, streaming at 3 a.m. Am I looking for like another challenge? Is it just that Max is he looking to go racing again? Because he's not racing right now. He's not racing. He's on a leisurely stroll on a Saturday or Sunday.
Is starting to look at. I think Max is at an age now where he's looking ahead and he's going, okay, 2026 is coming. Do I want to take a risk on Ford becoming the engine supplier for Red Bull Racing, or do I want to go to Mercedes, who tends to do really well when we change the engine. So the main conjecture is that Max could go to Mercedes for the 2025 or 2026 season.
What a nightmare. I mean,
in which I would welcome him to my team because I don't love Max literally only for the way that he talks to people. That's it. I think he's a phenomenal driver. You can't deny it.
Of course. Yes,
he's incredible behind the wheel. I think
Mercedes needs to get their act together. Why would he go there? They can't figure out their
engine and regulation changes.
What? That's literally the only thing you have going for you. If that wasn't happening, there would be no way in heck he'd be going
exactly. There. And Ford, who hasn't been in the sport for so long.
I'm like, are we just recreating Ford v Ferrari?
And the last time Ford engines were dominant is when they were naturally aspirated V8s, the most Neanderthal engine you can design is when Ford reigned supreme in the Formula One world. Yeah. And then the moment a turbocharged engine came in, they completely fumbled the ball to the point where they had to tune down the turbocharged engines so that the freaking naturally aspirated engines could compete.
No.
That's when Ford was great in Formula One.
It's not looking good.
It's not looking
I'm
good.
saying that
it's
much.
a massive risk for
Red
Bull.
If I'm Max and I'm having to deal with just the absolute insanity that Red Bull and the team principal are wading through right now, and I have the double jeopardy of Ford coming in, because again, that is the jeopardy, that is the unknown. And but then it's like, okay, but Adrian was able to make the RB19 somehow less dominant with this new car, like this new iteration of it. So like, but then the question is like, I it's hard to say, dude. Honestly, like, I think Max just wants to go racing.
Yeah.
That's why he's expressed. He's even said, listen, let's just make peace. Let's just move past this. I don't think that's going to happen. Apparently, according to, several news sources, the employee that brought the allegations against Christian Horner was
no, she is suspended.
She is suspended, but she is going to be appealing.
This thing is going to drag out. They've got to end this.
So this is the thing where it's like it's continuing, and again, Max just wants to go racing.
But we would love to just go racing. The problem with all of this is, number one, if there were any wrongdoing, that is of course terrible.
Yeah,
and no one should ever have to experience.
If it's wrongdoing,
but at the same time, I just want to see racing. Yeah. I don't want to watch a race.
This feels very American. This feels very like Selling Sunset.
Exactly.
I'm kind of over the Selling Sunset F1.
I didn't get into this. I want good racing on track, not drama off track that makes me tune in on Sunday.
That's why. That's the only thing everyone has to talk about right now is Haas and the DRS train and the Red
DRS
Bull
train that led to 1 point. 1 point, Ben.
I am realistically optimistic. F1 will figure this out. The other 9 teams are going to somehow figure this out, and we're going to get back to racing at the pointy end of the race, and we're going to stop this nonsense at P12, where that's where all the drama's at.
Yeah, we need Mercedes and we need Ferrari to pull their finger out and get their cars together.
Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston even, let's go.
Well, as long as they have Alonso, he's just going to make that car perform 12 times better than
smelling the roses. And
he's smelling roses, overperforming his teammate by 120%. And then, we have all this drama off track. I mean, the FIA they're fumbling around.
Yeah.
You've got Mohammed Ben Salim under investigation for overturning Alonso's 10-second penalty. He's also under there for not trying to certify the Las Vegas track. I don't care. No, I just want cars to be competitive again.
I don't either. I
don't want to hear what Horner thinks about all of the things that are going on inside. Keep your internal mess internal. I just want to see some cars freaking racing again.
Yes.
I want to see when pit stops actually matter and a car can't pull out a 30-second lead. I want to see things that matter. He did he led every lap in Bahrain because he had a freaking 30-second lead on
Max
the field.
Has won 9 races in a row, and he just got his 100th podium.
He's won 19 out of the last 20 races. And we don't think it's going to end anytime soon. So please keep tuning back in as we continue to try to talk
as we keep struggling.
F1. There's a lot going on. Hey, if you've been listening this entire time, you're a friggin' legend.
Yeah.
And you know what you should do to reward yourself is subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you listening for this long. Thank you so much for joining us on the F1 Rolling Start podcast. Ben, what do we say when we end?
Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.